Mu Chen's figure descended from the sky, directly landing on the white jade platforms where the Profound Vein elders stood, amid countless astonished gazes. His action immediately caused an uproar. What? Is he going to challenge the Profound Vein? This kid is really too arrogant. The Profound Vein has 7 elders in charge. To take a seat from them, he needs to win at least 4 battles. This is the act of a naive calf not fearing the tiger. He's trying to make a snake swallow an elephant. His ambition is impressive, but isn't he afraid he'll end up overwhelming himself? Whispers erupted everywhere, as everyone was shocked by Mu Chen's decision. From the current situation, it was clear that the Profound Vein was the hardest opponent to face. Many saw Mu Chen's choice as reckless and unwise. Of course, they weren't the only ones shocked. Even Qing Tian, Qing Xian, and the other elders from the Clear Vein were stunned. They had initially thought Mu Chen had some other plan, but instead, he had chosen the most direct and aggressive approach. But how could he possibly win? The Profound Vein had 7 elders, 3 at the spiritual grade Heavenly Supreme level and 4 at the immortal grade Heavenly Supreme level. If Mu Chen intended to challenge them, he would have to win 4 battles to claim a spot from the Profound Vein. But right now, the Clear Vein could offer very little support. Did this mean that Mu Chen planned to rely entirely on his own strength to win the challenge? He was going to break through the Profound Vein's defenses on his own? Just thinking about it seemed unbelievable. After all, Mu Chen was only at the early spiritual grade. Among the 7 Profound Vein elders, even the weakest was at the same level, while the rest were stronger. Moreover, even if Mu Chen managed to defeat the 3 at the spiritual grade Heavenly Supreme level, to win, he would at least need to defeat 1 at the immortal grade Heavenly Supreme level. Fighting across realms with a spiritual grade against an immortal grade seemed utterly absurd. Looking at it from every angle, Mu Chen had almost no chance of victory. What is this kid doing? Elder Qing Yun couldn't help but ask. Qing Tian sighed helplessly, shaking his head. Complaints were useless at this point. Their Clear Vein had already fallen so far. Even if Mu Chen failed, the situation wouldn't worsen much. He would only lose face. While the 3 elders of the Clear Vein sighed in resignation, Xian Luo and Moxin, seeing this scene, couldn't help but sneer, mocking, what a fool. Does he really think that stepping into the Heavenly Supreme level gives him the right to act recklessly? In our Futu ancient clan, a mere early spiritual grade Heavenly Supreme doesn't have the power he thinks he does. Many of the Profound Vein members nodded in agreement. To them, Mu Chen's actions were nothing more than self-inflicted humiliation. On the peak where the Clear Vein resided, the members exchanged worried glances. Even Qing Ling wore an anxious expression, clearly shaken by Mu Chen's decision. After all, they were talking about 7 Heavenly Supremes. To think Mu Chen could overcome them all was almost impossible. Mu Chen is incredible. His courage is nearly on par with his father's. Xiao, do you think Mu Chen will win? Lin Jing, standing beside the main peak, clapped her hands and laughed. Unlike the others, she didn't think Mu Chen was overestimating himself, but instead admired his audacity. Xiao pondered for a moment before a charming smile appeared on her cold and beautiful face. Mu Chen is a person who carefully plans before acting. He would never do something reckless. If he's taking this route, it must mean he has some confidence. She paused and chuckled lightly, adding, but I'm curious to know where his confidence comes from. Nearby, Lin Dio and Yao Chen exchanged a smile, saying, you two really believe in him. Though they said that, their expressions showed that they didn't think Mu Chen's actions were reckless. Although they weren't deeply acquainted with him, the fact that Lin Dong and Xiao Yin, 2 figures of such stature, had placed their trust in him was enough to prove that Mu Chen was no ordinary person. If that were the case, it was only natural that he might achieve some incredible feats. Amid the uproar, the leader of the Profound Vein elders, Xian Guang, stood at the top of the white jade platforms. Even with his composure, he couldn't help but laugh angrily at the sight of Mu Chen, saying, good. As expected of Qing Yanjing's son. His courage is indeed extraordinary. Fine. Since you want to experience the strength of my Profound Vein, I shall grant you that wish today. Profound Vein elders, listen up. Hold nothing back. Let this child experience the might of my Profound Vein. Yes. Upon hearing the branch leader's command, the other 6 elders immediately responded in a deep voice, their gazes turning hostile as they glared at Mu Chen. He had directly challenged their Profound Vein in front of so many people, which was undoubtedly a form of disrespect. How could they tolerate such an affront? At the summit of the main peak, the first elder, Fu Tu Xian, watched this scene, his eyes flickering briefly, though he remained silent. In his eyes, Chen was indeed too arrogant. He decided to let the profound vein suppress his sharpness first, making him understand that even if he had stepped into the heavenly supreme realm, he was not qualified to act recklessly within their mode ancient clan. However, Fu Tuxian knew that the profound vein elders should not kill Chen. If they did, someone like Qing Yanjing would surely harbor hatred toward the mode ancient clan. If she went on a rampage, even if the Mo clan could subdue her, it would come at an extremely heavy cost. This was a scenario the first elder resolutely did not want to see. While Fu Tuxian was lost in thought, Chen, high in the sky, paid no attention to the mocking and angry glares from the profound vein elders. His figure continued to descend at a steady pace, landing on a white jade platform at the bottom of the profound vein's domain. Countless gazes from all directions locked onto him. On this white jade platform stood an elder from the profound vein, named Xuan Hai, who had reached the initial spiritual grade. He appeared to be at the same level as Chen. At this moment, Elder Xuan Hai's robes billowed as he fixed Chen with a gaze sharp as a blade, a mocking smile tugging at the corner of his mouth. Slowly, he spoke, "I didn't expect someone like Qing Yanjing to give birth to such a foolish son. Your strength at the initial spiritual grade might allow you to act arrogantly in other places in the Great Thousand Worlds, but here in our mode ancient clan, it won't be of much use." However, Chen seemed to have not heard Xuan Hai's mockery. His gaze bypassed Xuan Hai and shifted directly toward the higher white jade platforms. "Youngster, you are truly impolite. It seems you were never taught manners. You're just an ill-bred wild child." Xuan Hai, seeing that Chen didn't even spare him a glance, instantly became furious and bellowed. Chen finally shifted his gaze, looking at Xuan Hai with eyes devoid of any emotion, and coldly said, "Get down. Don't ask for trouble. You brat, you're looking for death." Xuan Hai's face turned red with anger. He let out a loud roar, and in an instant, his body erupted with a dazzling light, growing taller and more massive, resembling a small giant. His body transformed into a spirit body, radiant and powerful, exuding an overwhelming force that could shatter the heavens and earth with the slightest movement. Boom. As Xuan Hai revealed his spirit body, he no longer held back. He stomped his foot, and the white jade platform made from special materials immediately cracked open with a loud noise. His figure shot forward like a phantom, reaching Chen in the blink of an eye. As he moved, mysterious light patterns began to spread across his spirit body. Spirit vein divine ability, giant spirit hammer of heaven. A fierce glint flashed in Xuan Hai's eyes as he immediately unleashed his powerful spirit vein divine ability. Though he mocked Chen as a junior, he gave it his all from the beginning. He knew that no matter what, Chen was a true spiritual grade heavenly supreme, with strength on par with his own. If he didn't fight with all his might, he might lose. Boom. Xuan Hai's fist expanded in an instant, becoming as large as a giant's hand, and slammed down toward Chen. The fist tore through the air, shattering the very void and causing the ground to quake, displaying terrifying power. Seeing the might of Xuan Hai's punch, many heavenly supremes nodded in acknowledgement. It was clear that Xuan Hai had some real skill to have become an elder of the mode ancient clan. However, when their gazes shifted to Chen, they couldn't help but pause in surprise. Chen remained completely still, allowing the devastating punch to come at him without moving. This brat, he doesn't even know how to dodge. Could it be that he's truly a fool? Many of the onlookers exchanged puzzled glances. Xuan Hai had seized the initiative with an astonishing attack, and under normal circumstances, one would try to avoid such a fierce blow, seeking an opening to counterattack. But why was Chen standing there like a wooden puppet? Amidst the many shocked gazes, the terrifying punch finally arrived. Just as it was about to smash into Chen's chest, he finally made his move. With a calm expression, Chen reached out his hand and lightly touched the incoming fist. Bang! At the moment of contact, a deafening crash echoed through the air. Visible shockwaves radiated out, causing the entire white jade platform to crack, and the stone slabs shattered into pieces. The smoke and dust spread across the air, gradually dissipating. Gazes were cast in every direction, followed by slight changes in expression. On the white jade platform, Chen still maintained the stance of blocking Xuan Hai's fierce punch with one hand. The surrounding stone slabs had turned to dust, yet the slab under his feet remained intact. Not even his body had shifted a single inch. The air erupted with exclamations. Many heavenly supremes from powerful forces narrowed their eyes in shock, clearly not expecting Chen to so easily take on Xuan Hai's violent punch. Amidst the clamoring, Xuan Hai's expression shifted as well. In his senses, his earlier, full-force punch had seemed to strike into a black hole. Mu Chen's body felt like an endless void, and no matter how much spiritual energy he released to attack, it had no effect. A sense of unease surged within Xuan Hai, prompting him to decide to retreat. He knew he would need to invoke his supreme Dharma form to engage in a hard battle. However, just as he was about to pull back, he realized that Mu Chen's hand was locked firmly around his fist, as if it were a hawk's claw, preventing him from retreating even a step. Xuan Hai looked up and met Mu Chen's cold and piercing gaze. "Since you've used the spirit vein divine ability, let's see how you handle mine." Mu Chen spoke indifferently. His eyes narrowed, and before Xuan Hai could react, a purple flame suddenly erupted from the palm of his hand. The flame surged along Xuan Hai's fist, instantly enveloping him. The purple flame blazed toward him, causing Xuan Hai to panic. He reflexively summoned vast amounts of spiritual energy to counter the flames, intending to extinguish them. However, what happened next left him in stunned horror. The purple flames, instead of being extinguished, began to devour his spiritual energy, growing fiercer. A terrifying heat spread through the air. Even his spirit body began to ache under the intense temperature. "Ah!" A shrill scream escaped Xuan Hai's mouth as he staggered backward like a man on fire. No matter how he channeled his spiritual power, the purple flames could not be put out. The high heat caused his flesh to burn. Mu Chen's expression remained indifferent as he stepped forward. With a single kick, he struck Xuan Hai's mouth, shattering his teeth and sending blood splattering across his face. Xuan Hai's body was then kicked off the white jade platform, crashing heavily to the ground. Everyone stood in stunned silence, unable to comprehend what had just occurred. How could Elder Xuan Hai, a heavenly supreme, have been defeated with a single move from Mu Chen? Unperturbed by Xuan Hai's agonizing screams, Mu Chen raised his head and calmly surveyed the other shocked profound vein elders. His voice, devoid of emotion, slowly echoed. "One strike, and you're done. Next. One strike, and you're done. Next." As Mu Chen's emotionless voice rang out, the world fell silent. The only sound was Xuan Hai's pitiful howling. Countless eyes in the sky were fixed on the tall, young figure standing on the white jade platform. No one had expected Mu Chen to win so decisively. After all, Xuan Hai was a heavenly supreme, albeit only in the early stage of the spirit grade. Yet, even in the great thousand worlds, he could dominate a region. Now, though, he had been utterly defeated without even landing a single blow on Mu Chen. It was a complete and utter crushing defeat. That was a heavenly supreme. Many powerful figures murmured in disbelief. How was this possible? Shen Luo, Moxin, and the others were completely shocked, looking as if they had seen a ghost. They had been ready to watch Mu Chen make a fool of himself, but in the blink of an eye, they had become the ones who were ridiculed. Around them, the members of the Profound Vein and Ink Vein clans were equally horrified. They swallowed nervously, their eyes filled with fear as they looked at Mu Chen. On the Qing Vein Mountain, the many Qing Vein clan members exchanged uneasy glances. After a long pause, they wiped the sweat from their brows and muttered, "How terrifying." Qing Ling's eyes shimmered with a strange light. She gazed at the tall figure on the white jade platform, her heart stirred. Compared to Mu Chen, the so-called geniuses of the younger generation from the Futu ancient clan seemed dull and insignificant. That purple flame is strange. Elder Qing Tian was also briefly stunned by the swift and decisive situation. However, being a powerful figure at the later stage of the spiritual grade, his sharp eyes quickly discerned that the purple flame was extraordinarily domineering. In an instant, it had rendered Xuan Hai powerless to fight. Truly, this must be the child of Lady Jing, Elder Qing Yun sighed, as he had previously thought that Mu Chen was reckless. But now, it seemed there was some skill behind his actions. Qing Xian slowly relaxed her tightly clenched jade-like hand, letting out a sigh of relief. However, she quickly became tense again, knowing that this was only the first round. Among the 7 elders of the Profound Vein, Xuan Hai was the weakest, and the opponents Mu Chen would face next would be far stronger. The silence in the air lasted for a while before it was finally broken by hushed whispers. At the same time, many more powerful individuals turned their gaze toward the purple flame engulfing Xuan Hai, now burning with even more caution in their eyes. Even an immortal grade Heavenly Supreme could do nothing against it, which showed just how overwhelming the purple flame was. At the peak of the main peak, Elder Fu Tu Xian, observing the scene, furrowed his brows. With a wave of his sleeve, an invisible hand seemed to descend, immediately removing the purple flame from Xuan Hai's body. Using his spiritual power, he created a vacuum-like space, like a black hole, trapping the flames inside. Fu Xian's spiritual power was clearly imbued with immense sealing capabilities. Even Mu Chen's spirit-devouring purple flame could not burn it. The two powers clashed, but in the end, the purple flame dissipated as its strength ran out. This scene made the other experts narrow their eyes. Even Fu Xian had to exert some effort to eliminate the purple flame, which highlighted just how troublesome it was. As the purple flame dissipated, Xuan Hai's charred body was revealed, the flesh melting away to expose his ghastly white bones. Xuan Hai now appeared utterly defeated, clearly suffering serious injury. It was known that once one reached the immortal grade, their physical body transformed into spiritual energy, granting incredible power and vitality. Yet even so, Xuan Hai had been burned to this state by the purple flame, which attested to the flame's sheer power. You young ones truly have vicious methods. The leader of the profound vein, Xin Guang, looked grim, his face slightly ashen. Mu Chen's quick and clean defeat of Xuan Hai had undoubtedly been a sharp slap to the face of their profound vein. It's just a matter of reciprocity. Since Elder Xuan Hai used the spirit vein divine ability, I shall return the favor, Mu Chen said indifferently, unconcerned by Xin Guang's sour expression. So it's a spirit vein divine ability. But judging by its power, Mu Chen's spirit vein must have reached the divine level. The only question is whether it's at the sevenfold or eightfold divine vein. Many experts murmured, their eyes flashing. To be able to unleash such a potent spirit vein divine ability, Mu Chen's spirit vein must be at a high level. Xin Guang's eyes darkened as he stared at Mu Chen, before letting out a cold snort. His gaze shifted to another elder of the profound vein. Elder Xuan Feng, it's your turn now. Do not engage with his physical body directly. Xin Guang's sharp gaze immediately noticed that while the purple flame was indeed domineering, it wasn't very fast. As long as one avoided direct contact, the purple flame would lose its effectiveness. The elder named Xuan Feng nodded gravely, his earlier underestimation of Mu Chen completely gone. His eyes now were sharp, focused on Mu Chen. Then allow me to test you as well. Mu Chen smiled faintly, his figure flashing as he landed on the white jade platform, where Xuan Feng stood. The latter was at the mid-spiritual grade, and Mu Chen had intended to deal with him first. Boom. Xuan Feng, seeing Mu Chen step onto the stage, didn't waste any words. With a single hand seal, his body transformed into a spirit body, glowing with immense spiritual light. At the same time, a colossal immortal Dharma form, towering tens of thousands of feet, materialized behind him. As it inhaled and exhaled, a violent spiritual energy storm formed. Learning from Xuan Hai's earlier experience, Xuan Feng immediately summoned his immortal Dharma form. With this, even if he had to clash head-on, he was not afraid in the slightest. Xuan Feng was indeed stronger than Xuan Hai, being at the mid-spiritual grade. His immense immortal Dharma form reflected in Mu Chen's eyes, causing a cold smirk to appear on his lips. His hatred for both the profound vein and ink vein ran deep, and today, he had no intention of showing any mercy. Since the other party wanted a fight, he unleashed all of his techniques, using a force as overwhelming as a thunderstrike to crush the profound vein beneath him. At the same time, it was a release of the resentment he had suppressed for over 20 years. Mu Chen, come on, let me see what tricks you have this time. With the supreme Dharma form protecting him, Xuan Feng's confidence soared. From his elevated position, he looked down on Mu Chen with disdain, coldly shouting. Hearing this, Mu Chen lifted his head and, with a mocking smile, looked at Xuan Feng. You think just because you have the supreme Dharma form, it can protect you? Xuan Feng's eyes narrowed, and he sneered in return, boasting with no shame. Go ahead, try it. However, before he could finish his mocking words, he suddenly felt something. His eyes snapped upwards, and his face changed dramatically as he saw a crystal pagoda of transcendence breaking through the air and appearing directly above his head. That's the sacred floating pagoda? As soon as the crystal-like sacred floating pagoda appeared, countless members of the Futu ancient clan gasped. They all knew that only those who cultivated the most orthodox great pagoda art could form a floating pagoda, and only those with exceptionally pure bloodlines could manifest the sacred floating pagoda. Among the younger generation of the Futu ancient clan, only Xin Tong had succeeded in cultivating a floating pagoda. Yet, judging from its radiance, his pagoda was far weaker than Mu Chen's sacred floating pagoda. Boom. The crystal-like sacred floating pagoda crashed down, directly suppressing Xuan Feng and the supreme Dharma form beneath him. Xuan Feng's pupils contracted, and he took a deep breath. With a roar, 10 massive dragons made of blue gale winds suddenly erupted from the supreme Dharma form beneath his feet. These dragons roared upwards, like lifting a heavy cauldron, resisting the crashing sacred floating pagoda. At the same time, the 10 gale dragons emitted fierce, piercing winds that scraped against the surface of the sacred floating pagoda, sending sparks flying and shaking the tower violently. Humph, you think a sacred floating pagoda alone can suppress me? How naive. Xuan Feng sneered, relieved as he successfully blocked the descending tower. Chen, however, smiled with a strange glint in his eyes. At the same time, Xin Guang, the leader of the profound vein, suddenly remembered something. His face changed, and he quickly shouted, "Be careful, this kid has cultivated the Eightfold." Boom. Before his words could finish, the sacred floating pagoda suddenly trembled violently. 8 streaks of black light shot out from the tower, eventually transforming into 8 towering, menacing demon statues. As soon as these demon statues appeared, they unleashed terrifying power. Without a word, each extended a finger and pointed toward Xuan Feng and the supreme Dharma form below. Whoosh! 8 eerie black beams shot out, converging into one and crashing down, seemingly piercing through space as they descended. Boom! Boom! The 10 giant wind dragons at the front were instantly shredded by the black beams, and Xuan Feng's expression changed drastically. His body shifted, diving into the supreme Dharma form for protection. Boom! However, the terrifying black beams, resembling the fingers of a world-destroying deity, did not hesitate. In the next instant, they landed heavily on the supreme Dharma form. Bang! 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 The entire world seemed to echo with the sound of destruction. Then, countless powerful figures were horrified to witness the black beams tearing through the supreme Dharma form, shredding it apart. Boom! The supreme Dharma form exploded with a deafening roar, sending shockwaves across hundreds of thousands of miles, causing nearby mountains to tremble. Had it not been for the protection of other powerful beings, this entire region would have been flattened. However, none of the onlookers cared about the destruction. Their eyes were fixed on the source of the shockwave, where, as the supreme Dharma form shattered, a figure tumbled down. In the sky, Chen's gaze flickered. He transformed into a streak of light, shooting down at immense speed, and landed with a powerful stomp on the falling figure. It was like 2 meteors crashing down onto the white jade platform below. Boom! The entire white jade platform collapsed in that instant. Chen stood at the center, with Xuan Feng Elder's chest crushed beneath his foot, blood gushing out, his spiritual energy depleted. Clearly, he had been thoroughly wounded. All around, countless powerful beings gasped in awe. Another move, and it was done. With a single move, he defeated the profound vein elder, Xuan Feng, who was at the mid-spirit grade. This Chen is truly terrifying. That's the Eightfold Pagoda. Only the elders of the Futu ancient clan had their expressions changed drastically, clearly recognizing what Chen had just executed. The legendary Eightfold Pagoda, one of the 36 ultimate divine abilities in the Great Thousand Worlds. Once belonging to their own Futu ancient clan, Chen's expression remained indifferent as he retracted his foot, saying nothing. Instead, amidst countless fearful gazes, his figure moved and landed on another white jade platform. He looked up at the figure standing on the platform. It was a familiar face, the elder Blacklight, someone Chen had encountered before. It was also this man who had instigated Profound Heaven Elder to travel to Tianluo continent to deal with him. At this moment, the elder Blacklight gazed at Chen in shock, his expression one of disbelief. It was hard to imagine that just a year or 2 ago, Chen had been at the great perfection stage, and now he had become so terrifyingly strong. Chen's cold eyes fixed on elder Blacklight. Back in the sacred Abyss continent, this old man had repeatedly used the power of the Heavenly Supreme to pressure him, and today, it was time to settle the score. It's your turn. Let's settle both old and new scores here. When Chen's figure landed on the white jade platform where Elder Blacklight stood, the entire world was still shaken by the earlier events. Everyone fell into a deep silence. This silence lasted for a long time, and finally, someone spoke in a hushed voice. That's the Eightfold Pagoda, one of the 36 ultimate divine abilities in the Great Thousand Worlds, right? The superpowers present, all with vast experience, quickly recognized the world-shattering divine ability Chen had just used. The destructive force of the dark black beam of light made even the Heavenly Supreme shiver. Such a powerful ability could only belong to one of the 36 ultimate divine abilities known throughout the Great Thousand Worlds. I can't believe he really succeeded in cultivating the Eightfold Pagoda. The elders of the Futu ancient clan, especially those from the Profound and Ink lineages, looked at Chen with envy and jealousy. Their eyes were bloodshot, as if they wanted nothing more than to seize that ability for themselves. As Heavenly Supremes, they understood exactly what the 36 ultimate divine abilities represented. If they possessed one, they too would be invincible at their level. Just think about it. How many Heavenly Supremes were there in the great thousand worlds? Yet, only these 36 abilities were truly at the top. This demonstrated their immense value. Even with the deep and unfathomable foundation of the Futu ancient clan, they only had a few divine abilities that could compare to these 36 ultimate abilities. On the mountain where Mu Chen had been earlier, Qing Shuang tightly covered her mouth with her delicate hand. The excitement she felt was so overwhelming that even her usual cold demeanor couldn't be maintained. Her body trembled. She had initially thought that the Qing bloodline would be dealt a crushing blow, but to her surprise, the situation had turned around. Mu Chen's sudden appearance seemed to signal a reversal of fate. "Mu Chen, go for it," Qing Shuang whispered. Beside her, Lingxi smiled and gently patted her shoulder, causing Qing Shuang to smile in return, slightly embarrassed but gradually calming down. "Lingxi, do you think Mu Chen can win?" Qing Shuang asked, a hint of hope in her voice. Though she knew that, despite winning 2 rounds, Mu Chen's next opponents would be even stronger. Lingxi smiled gently, her elegance shining through as she replied, "Don't worry. Since Mu Chen is taking action, he must be confident. We just need to wait." Qing Shuang nodded vigorously, her eyes fixed on the figure in the distance, her gaze sparkling with excitement. On another mountain peak, Lin Jing clapped her jade-like hands and smiled brightly. Mu Chen's victories were so impressive. In these 2 battles, Mu Chen had shown no hesitation, going all out from the start and even revealing his trump cards. His performance was nothing short of spectacular. With just 2 moves, he had won decisively, leaving the crowd feeling both astonished and exhilarated. Beside her, Xiao Xiao lightly nodded, her eyes filled with admiration. It seems that Mu Chen holds a deep grudge against the Futu ancient clan. Yao Chen, who was standing nearby, chuckled. His sharp eyes quickly saw through the situation. This was Mu Chen's deliberate move. Today, he had come with a single purpose, to vent the suppressed rage he had carried for over 20 years. This anger was not just for himself, but for his father, who had been separated from his wife and lived in solitude for years, and for his mother, who had been imprisoned in darkness for so long. Therefore, the victory he sought wasn't one of an evenly matched battle, but a swift and crushing one, like a thunderous strike. With this, the face of the profound lineage would certainly be humiliated. However, this kind of fighting style can only be used when you're absolutely certain of victory. If the 2 sides are evenly matched, the one who reveals their trump card first might lose the advantage, Lin Diao also commented. However, despite his words, there was a look of admiration on his face. Mu Chen's choice of combat method was a clear sign of his confidence in his own strength. This kind of confidence, Lin Diao had once seen in Lin Dong. In the silent atmosphere, Elder Blacklight, standing on the white jade platform, stared darkly at the young man walking toward him. His gaze flickered with a deep sense of wariness. The methods Mu Chen had shown earlier, whether it was the eerie purple flame or the domineering Eightfold Pagoda, had stirred a sense of fear in Elder Blacklight's heart. His strength surpassed both Xuan Hai and Xuan Feng, as he was in the late spiritual grade, yet in the face of the fiercely ambitious Mu Chen, he still lacked confidence. Damn it, how has this guy become so strong now? Elder Blacklight cursed inwardly, soon followed by regret. He wasn't regretting provoking Mu Chen, but rather why, when Mu Chen was only at great perfection back then, he hadn't taken decisive action and killed him immediately. Even if he didn't have to truly kill him, he could have crippled his cultivation, turning him into a useless cripple. In that case, there would be no disaster today. Are you wondering why you didn't kill me back then? Mu Chen smiled as he fixed his gaze on him. Upon hearing this, Elder Blacklight trembled. He could feel the chilling killing intent behind Mu Chen's smile. But as an elder of the Futu ancient clan, a person of high status, he quickly regained his composure. He glared at Mu Chen and said, "Mu Chen, don't get too carried away. It's good for a young man to have ambition, but if you go too far, you might break instead of advancing. If your profound vein has the ability, then come and show it to me," Mu Chen replied casually. "You." Elder Blacklight's anger flared, but when he saw the coldness in Mu Chen's eyes, his heart skipped a beat, and he couldn't help but feel both ashamed and furious. Still not attacking? Mu Chen continued to stare at him indifferently, then extended his hand, long and white as jade, with spiritual light flickering. "If you're not going to make a move, then I will." Elder Blacklight gritted his teeth in anger. Just as he was about to gather his spiritual energy, a voice transmission suddenly reached his ears. Black light. Use the secret technique and attack with everything you've got. Even if you can't win, you must crush his sharp edge. After that, someone else will handle him. Upon hearing the transmission, Elder Blacklight's eyes flashed, and he subtly glanced at Xin Guang, the leader of the Profound Vein. The voice transmission had clearly come from him. Should I use the secret technique? Elder Blacklight hesitated for a moment. If he did so, even with his Heavenly Supreme recovery, he would still be severely weakened for at least half a year. However, he understood Xin Guang's intention. Mu Chen's current aggression was too overwhelming. Even if they couldn't win all 4 battles, it would be enough to humiliate the Profound Vein. With so many powerful factions observing, if word got out that the Profound Vein was swept by a Sin child, it would tarnish their reputation. Therefore, no matter what, Elder Blacklight could not let Mu Chen continue his unstoppable momentum. He had to stop him now and suppress his aggression. After that, in the 4th round, the Profound Vein could send out their Heavenly Supreme, and it would be easy to deal with Mu Chen then. Fine. After some internal conflict, Elder Blacklight finally gritted his teeth. After witnessing Mu Chen's abilities, even he wasn't confident he could withstand Mu Chen's assault. Since that was the case, he might as well take a desperate gamble. You brat. Today you'll learn what happens when you go too far. Elder Blacklight coldly muttered to himself, then suddenly shot backward with lightning speed. He sneered and said, Mu Chen, don't get too cocky. Let me see how you handle this. Boom. As the sound echoed, billions of spiritual lights intertwined behind the black light, forming a massive supreme Dharma form. A vast spiritual energy storm raged across the heavens and earth. The moment this supreme Dharma form appeared, Black Light took a deep breath, and his hands swiftly formed a strange seal. Simultaneously, the supreme Dharma form behind him also formed the same seal. In the distance, the elders, including Qing Tian and Qing Xian, saw this scene, and their pupils immediately contracted. They exclaimed in shock, shameless. It's the spirit transformation secret art. As they were horrified, Black Light turned to Mu Chen with a vicious grin and coldly said, Since you've been so relentless, don't blame me for being ruthless. With those words, his belly suddenly swelled, and at the same time, the supreme Dharma form behind him also inflated. In the next moment, he opened his mouth and forcefully exhaled. A torrent of star-like energy surged out from the mouths of Black Light and his supreme Dharma form, roaring endlessly like a flood that could erase the ages. As the starry torrent continued to roar, Black Light's body rapidly dried up, and the supreme Dharma form began to dim, as if all the power within them had transformed into the endless starry flood. Across the world, many heavenly supremes witnessed this and could not help but change their expressions. They exclaimed in disbelief, This Black Light has gone mad. He actually decomposed his supreme Dharma form. The supreme Dharma form is one of the most powerful forces of a heavenly supreme. If it self-decomposes, it must be reformed, which requires a significant amount of time and energy, and there may even be damage. Thus, such a method is rarely used. It is a true double-edged sword, killing 1,000 enemies while injuring oneself. Whoosh! Whoosh! The starry torrent roared across the heavens, heading straight for Mu Chen. Its power was so overwhelming that even the sun and moon seemed like they could be obliterated by it. The powerful beings present all had solemn expressions. Previously, Mu Chen's sharpness had been too intense, and that was why Black Light resorted to this extreme method, trying to disrupt his momentum and preserve the dignity of the Profound Vein. Black Light truly is ruthless. Now Mu Chen is in serious trouble, they murmured. Boom! Boom! The starry torrents came roaring from all directions, completely blocking all of Mu Chen's escape routes. Within the torrents, violent spiritual energy collided, and the destructive power unleashed was so immense that not even a spiritual-grade Heavenly Supreme could easily withstand it. Even an immortal-grade Heavenly Supreme would have to avoid its might. Black Light had used the secret technique, sacrificing his own vitality to unleash this devastating offensive. The power it generated was extraordinary. Across the world, all the strong figures watched with grave expressions. Though Mu Chen had shown astonishing power earlier, Black Light's counterattack was equally sharp and brutal. If Mu Chen made the slightest mistake, all his previous advantages would vanish. The Qing Vein members watched the starry torrents blocking the sky, their faces filled with worry. Even Qing Tian, Qing Xian, and the other elders frowned deeply. Good, good. Black Light Elder is decisive. Xian Tong clapped his hands and sneered. Mu Chen is alone. Even if Black Light pays a price, it ensures that Mu Chen's goal for today will never be achieved. The members of the profound vein echoed, agreeing that the attack unleashed by black light was extraordinary. They felt confident that Mu Chen would not be able to withstand it. Whoosh! Whoosh! Under the countless watchful eyes, the starry torrents finally descended upon Mu Chen, immediately engulfing his figure. The surrounding void collapsed beneath the weight of the starry flood. Seeing this, Blacklight let out a deep sigh of relief. His supreme Dharma form had shattered, and he himself appeared weakened, clearly suffering heavy damage. However, the cost was worth it. Mu Chen had no escape now. No matter how many tricks he had, he would undoubtedly be severely wounded by this desperate blow. Once injured, with his strength, he would have no chance of winning the fourth match. This would ensure that the Qing Vein's position would remain secure. Humph, brat, let you enjoy your pride for now. I'll let you taste the feeling of falling from heaven to hell, Blacklight sneered to himself. Countless eyes across heaven and earth were fixed on the spot ravaged by the starry torrent. Space itself had collapsed there, as if everything within that region had been reduced to nothingness. After surging violently for quite some time, the torrent finally began to fade. This time, Mu Chen must be seriously injured. The elders of the profound lineage nodded to themselves, smiles creeping onto their faces. Mu Chen's earlier sweeping victory had humiliated their lineage, but now they had finally regained some pride. Many other powerful individuals also looked on with quiet regret. Mu Chen's resolve had won them over, and despite the profound lineage's dominance, quite a few were secretly hoping for a miracle. Yet at this moment, it seemed the chances were slim. Still, just making it this far was enough for Mu Chen to become known throughout the great thousand worlds. Up above, the torrent finally dissipated completely, and then countless gazes suddenly contracted. The next instant, cries of shock erupted like waves. What is that? The expressions of the elders from the profound lineage shifted drastically as they looked up. At the heart of where the torrent had receded stood a massive lotus, glowing in hues of violet and gold. Its tightly closed petals radiated a purple-gold light, seemingly indestructible. Its petals were covered with countless deep scars, clear signs that it had withstood the destructive storm. Though it looked ready to collapse, it had endured to the very end. Amid the sea of stunned eyes, the tightly shut petals of the violet gold lotus slowly began to bloom. As it opened, a colossal figure of violet gold light appeared before everyone's eyes. This towering silhouette stood atop the lotus, radiating billions of beams of violet gold light. An aura of immortality emanated from it. Is that Mu Chen's supreme Dharma form? As soon as the massive figure came into view, cries of astonishment echoed through the air. That eternal, ancient aura made it clear this was no ordinary supreme Dharma form. On a mountain near the main peak, within a stone pavilion, stood a man with black and white pupils, Mahayu of the Moat ancient clan. As his gaze fell upon the mysterious figure, his eyes narrowed slightly. With indifference, he said, "So this brat really has cultivated the immortal golden body." Behind him, another expert of the Moat ancient clan looked surprised and said, "Earlier, he must have used the immortal golden lotus to block Elder Blacklight's desperate strike." In the great thousand worlds, no one knew more about the immortal golden body than the Moat ancient clan. Every generation, their most outstanding prodigies were required to cultivate it, hoping to eventually reach the ultimate form, the legendary eternal undying body. Unfortunately, though many had succeeded in cultivating the immortal golden body, none had ever reached its pinnacle. Because of this, the Mo ancient clan was deeply familiar with its most powerful defensive technique. It only took one look for them to recognize it. For him to manifest the immortal golden lotus, his comprehension of the immortal golden body is quite advanced, the expert commented. Mahayu, however, remained unimpressed. He's just an outsider fumbling through it. Reaching this point is already his limit. If he thinks he can go further and attain the eternal undying body, he's dreaming. The others nodded in agreement. The Mo ancient clan had guarded the eternal undying body for countless ages. Though officially protecting it, they had long since come to consider it their own legacy. There was no way they would allow an outsider to seize it so easily. The first elder once told me the eternal undying body has shown signs of stirring over the past year or two. It might finally be ready to choose its master. If I'm right, during this cycle's eternal assembly, its true heir will emerge. A glimmer of greed flickered in Mahayu's eyes. Clenching his hand, he said, "If I can obtain the eternal undying body, I might even break through and step into the Saint-Grade realm. Few within the clan can rival Lord Yu in mastery of the immortal golden body." The other Moat experts chimed in with flattery. "Your chances of being chosen are exceptionally high. Every time the Eternal Assembly is held, There are always some outsiders getting involved, which is really disappointing. I can't understand what the immortal emperor was thinking back then. He clearly entrusted the eternal undying body to our remote ancient clan, yet he still left some inheritance methods outside. Someone muttered with dissatisfaction. Mahayu smiled faintly and said, "The Eternal Assembly was personally established by the Immortal Emperor. Anyone who has cultivated the immortal golden body is allowed to participate. But this isn't a problem. The cultivation methods passed down in the Great Thousand Worlds are incomplete, so those self-taught methods are nothing to fear. After this Eternal Assembly, the eternal undying body will belong to our remote ancient clan, and even if the Immortal Emperor were to be reborn, he would not be able to take it away." Hearing this, everyone nodded in agreement. As countless gazes from around the world were drawn to the massive immortal golden body in the sky, a figure appeared on its shoulder. It was Mu Chen. The experts of the profound lineage looked at Mu Chen, their faces turning grim. At that moment, Mu Chen was completely unharmed, and his spiritual power was still vast. It was clear that the earlier relentless attacks from black light had been completely blocked by Mu Chen without leaving a single scratch. How was this possible? Blacklight's face turned pale, his voice trembling in shock. On the shoulder of the immortal golden body, Mu Chen looked down coldly at Blacklight, then his figure blurred and transformed into a streak of light, descending from the sky towards Blacklight. Seeing Mu Chen's murderous expression, Blacklight's face changed dramatically. He was heavily injured and had lost most of his combat ability. How could he possibly be Mu Chen's opponent now? Stop. At that moment, the leader of the profound vein, Xin Guang, noticed Mu Chen's intent and immediately shouted. Swish. However, Mu Chen ignored his shout. Like a ghost, his figure appeared in front of Blacklight, his expression cold as he delivered a punch. The punch shattered the space itself. Boom. Mu Chen's fist, filled with vast spiritual power, landed heavily on Blacklight's chest, causing it to cave in. Blood sprayed out as Blacklight was sent flying backward. Swish. Just as Blacklight flew backward, Mu Chen appeared behind him and unleashed a powerful whip kick. Blacklight was sent flying like a cannonball, crashing into the white jade platform. Bang, bang, bang. Mu Chen's assault came like a torrential storm, a continuous barrage of attacks landing on Blacklight's body. Faced with such a furious onslaught, Blacklight screamed in agony, his body almost reduced to a pile of broken flesh. Countless powerful figures looked at Mu Chen with growing wariness. After all, with just the strength of an initial spiritual grade, he was beating a late spiritual grade, heavenly supreme like a punching bag. This was truly rare. Mu Chen finally stopped. At his feet, Blacklight's body was shattered. Were it not for the heavenly supreme's strong vitality, he would have already perished. But even so, Blacklight had been severely wounded. It would take years of painstaking cultivation to recover, if it were even possible. Seeing this brutal scene, the many experts in the heavens couldn't help but take a deep breath. Mu Chen was truly a force to be reckoned with, completely disregarding the face of the profound vein and forcefully crippling Blacklight. Some of the gazes turned to the profound vein, and sure enough, the elders from the profound vein looked like they had been struck by a black pot, their faces filled with dark anger. Mu Chen kicked the heavily wounded and unconscious Blacklight away, then coldly looked up and locked eyes with the leader of the profound vein, Xin Guang. He spoke again, still not enough. Such a ruthless junior. Xin Guang's face darkened. However, Mu Chen paid him no mind. He simply raised a finger, giving it a slight shake. His haughty posture made the many elders of the profound vein twitch with veins bulging on their foreheads. There's still one more to go.